Hey there. All right, so let's jump right into the thick of things here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to go about generating a Gantt chart in the RStudio environment. But before we do that, we'll need to import our data set. And I did that by clicking Import Dataset and clicking from Excel because that's how my data set was saved. Then I'm going to browse for my data set. And my data set is saved in my desktop just to make sure that I've located the proper data set. I'm going to quickly search through it here. And then once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click Open. And we see that R brings in our data preview, our data set in this previewed format. In this video, we're going to need to make some changes in this preview before we start working in R, because we have some dates that we want to make sure the R software recognizes. And so here we have a start date, we have an actual start date and an actual end date for the purposes of our Gantt chart. And to make sure that R recognizes those as in fact dates, we're going to go ahead and click this drop down arrow here and click date for each of these. And R will make those changes as it'll recognize those values in our data set as dates rather than summed values. But okay, here. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and click import because that is the data set that we want to import. And once we do that, we see that the preview has been brought into the R software so we can work with the data set. But now I'm going to bop over here to our script file, and I'm just going to go ahead and run our code here so it'll make it a little easier to explain as we walk through the creation of this Gantt chart. And okay, there we see we have 19 variables there in our data set. But let's go ahead and move this out of the way here a little bit so we can get a better view of our Gantt chart here. But all right, so this is our Gantt chart. This is what our Gantt chart looks like. But let's go ahead and walk through some of this code here. So at line 1, we have a library command. A library command allows us to open and read packages. In this case, we've told R to open and read the Plotly package. And the Plotly package is the software package that allows us to plot our data set, the information on our data set, in the format of this Gantt chart. It's one of the many functions of the Plotly package. Next, we have another library command because we want to open and read our data set, and so we use a new package here, which is our read Excel package, which, like I said, allows us to open and work with the data set as when we bring it into the R environment. And then at line 3, this line here allows us to equip our data set. So this read Excel function here allows me to indicate to R where my data set is saved on my computer using these quotation marks here. And then I've indicated that I want to take the information in my data set, and using a push command, rename this information using the variable name Gantt, instead of having to refer to Gantt data or Gantt chart as a variable or data set name rather. I can just refer to Gantt here. But okay, so we've opened our data set, we've loaded Plotly, and we're ready to go as far as formatting our particular environment here. And we see at line 5, we've indicated that we have Gantt here, which is our data set name, and then we've used a $sign to specify the variable that we want to work with first. And then we've indicated with an as.date command that we want to take the information from the dataset Gantt and select the variable start. And then as part of that variable, we want to then format, using this format command here, the dates. Remember I said that we have our start date, our proposed start date, our actual start date, and our actual duration of time it took to perform these tasks here. So if you see, we have our, like I said, we have our start date, actual start, that kind of thing. These, and again, these are all dates. So to make sure that R, again, recognizes these values as dates, we are going to format them using the typical date format in R, which is our XY here, or I mean %Y here, dash %M dash %day. So that is indicating the year first, the month, and then the day of our date. And then in the next line, we have a client equals command, which in the Plotly package functions as our title command. So it allows us to name our plot. And you'll see here that the R in our minority stream, this is the name of the project of the data set that I'm using here for this example. We see that that same name appears here as our title. And then our next line, we have an R color brewer, brewer.pow command here, but which basically this command is referring to the website Color Brewer, which is a website that allows you to pick particular RGB codes or hex codes and import them and interact with them, whether it be with Excel or Word, or in this case, the RStudio environment. But anyway, this is what this R Color Brewer refers to, is allowing you to select the color that you want to use when you display the tasks, the duration of your tasks in this particular Gantt chart. And we see that, of course, we see that here with the blues and the reds. And let's see. So once we've identified where we want to get that color from, we then use a brewer.pow command to select that color, and we want the color to be selected based upon the number of categories that we have in this variable resources here. And so what we're telling R is that we're wanting to specify the color based upon, or indicate the color based upon the number of categories in the resource variable, and that we want with this unique command, we're telling R that we want to focus on this specific variable. And the resource variable is, you'll see, who is essentially our party responsible variable. Because a Gantt chart allows you to list out tasks and identify different characteristics of those tasks in order to complete them, such as start and end dates, durations of the expected tasks. One of those indications that you can make as part of this Gantt chart is to indicate who is responsible for completing each task. And that's what our resource variable is in charge of here. But going back to our script file here, basically, a layman's way of saying this is we've indicated in R that we want R to color code each of these tasks based upon who is in charge of completing them. So the red tasks here, we see that we have an Eros and POC responsibility. We see that under next to responsible there. And then if I shift over to blue, we see that the Eros team is responsible for just the Eros team, rather than the Eros team and POC is responsible for this particular task. But all right. So we basically told R that we want to select a color, and that we want that color to be based upon the variable resources. And then we have a comma and a name command here, where we've told R which set of colors we want to base, or we want the chart to be based on. In this case, set 1 indicates the colors red and blue, which in my opinion look much better than some of the other color options there. But this set 1 indicates the color that we want to pick from. And then we have, and so then we're pushing all this information that we have here with our color brewer all the way to set 1 here. We're pushing all this information into the variable COLS, which stands for colors. And then we're coming down to our next line of code here, where we have a factor command where we are setting the parameters of the colors, basically, where we're saying we've told R that we want to use the dataset Gantt and select the variable resource. And then within that, using that variable, we want to identify, or we want to have the labels represented by the colors. See, we have labels equals colors here. These colors, this colors value, COLS value, corresponds to the same COLS value that we indicated in the line above. Just again, formatting the Gantt chart here based upon color of our, basing the color upon the party responsible for completing that task. Okay, now here at line 11 we have a plotly command which basically allows us to initialize the plot once we've set these parameters here, and then we are pushing those parameters into the variable p. Then we have a for loop command here where we are basically telling R that we want to initiate a loop. In other words, we want to initiate a loop based upon the following characteristics here, and we want that loop to continue until the total number of tasks. This is what this in-row variable means here. This in-row command refers to the total number of objects or total number of tasks that, in this case, which is 1 through 19, that we have in our dataset Gantt, plus 1. So originally this would refer to or locate 18, but we wanted to add and indicate our last task there, so we added our plus 1. And then in line 13, it should be indicated that, or noted that each task basically functions as a separate trace. And so here we have an add trace command. So we want to, based upon this information in these number of tasks that we've indicated, number of objects in our data set we've indicated, we want to plot or add a trace, which is again each task here, based upon the following information. And that information includes our x variable, which is our start date, which we've indicated, telling R that we want the series or the sequence to be selected from the dataset Gantt and the variable start. And then we've indicated there for the number of objects, it's this I value basically refers to our inexhaustible number of tasks, number of dates in this case, number of dates that we have for the number of tasks that we've indicated in our data set. Because again, we're using this for command or for loop command, which tells R that we want to create, instead of creating one individual trace or one individual line here, we're telling R that we want it to plot lines based upon the duration of the task that it takes to complete the task. That's why you'll see these shorter lines are for a single day, whereas a longer line, the actual duration is about 15 days for that particular line. But what we're doing is telling, so if I can put this in graphical terms, we're telling R that we want to plot our X value according to the start date, and then we want to add, in addition to the start date, we want to make sure that the tasks are represented by the level of duration or time it takes to complete the task. So there we have our X value, which is our start date, and then you'll see that the duration, is flowing in the same way that our X values would, which is from left to right, and it allows us to display the length of time that it takes to complete each task. And that's what this line does here. And then for this y equals C parentheses command here, basically it allows us to indicate the y values or for the y-axis in the sequence I comma I, which again, using this for loop command, we are initiating a repetitive loop, and so we don't have specific values, rather we have I as a variable placeholder to indicate that we want the y values to display until the number of tasks has been within the data set Gantt has been identified. And we want, with our line 16 here, we want to indicate that, we want to indicate here the type of method for plotting these data points, which uses the mode equals command and then specifies lines. So each plot here, each task and its duration is indicated by a single thick line in order to represent time again, of course. And then we want the line, we're telling R that with this line command that we want the line to be based upon color. And this list command here allows us to customize the variable color that we have in our data set. So color equals the data set, and we've selected the variable color in that data set, and based upon the number of objects that we have in the data set, in this case we have the 19 tasks, and we want the width of the lines to be displayed at a width of 20. So again, we're just setting the line parameters here. And then we have a show legend command. And with the show legend command, as the name implies, it allows us to show the legend, but then we have an equals F value here. And this equal F value allows us to display the legend, but rather than displaying the legend based upon the colors in the colors of our lines here, we're able to indicate a legend of our own creation. In this case, we've indicated the task completed, the task underway, and the task yet to start, just as an identifier of what tasks we've completed and what tasks we still have yet to go. And then we have a hover command here, hover info, which equals text. So it allows us to display information about the description of each task and who's responsible, which phase the task occurs within. So for example, as I've been talking about this, you've seen me kind of hover over some of these points and you see these different boxes display. That's what we're referring to here when we talk about the hover info command. And so you'll see that there. text equals paste command allows us to paste in the information that we want to be displayed in our hover info window, our tooltip window, for those of you that use Tableau. So again, there, if we look, we see we pasted in the phase value, the task name, the start date, the duration, the party responsible, the task's progress, the actual start date, and the actual time, the actual duration that it's taken to complete the task. And we see that there with each of those. And for example, our duration, which is basically saying duration is the duration of the time it's taken to complete the task, is based upon our dataset Gantt, and we selected the value duration for the number of tasks, I, and we've indicated here with the label days the type of value that we wanted to display. So again, there you'll see next to actual duration, we have 15 days. And then with tasks in progress, we are using a conditional command in which we have identified those you'll see in the hover info here where it says task progress is complete. We made that command using this conditional argument here, which is using the dataset Gantt and selecting the variable task progress, or progress in this case because I can't spell, but such is life. Then, so basically we're saying that when the variable task progress is equal to the value completed, we're then going to paste the task progress, and we're also going to indicate the actual start date and the actual end date, or actual duration here rather than end date there, actual duration of time that it takes to complete each task. So again, there, just looking through, you'll see that you have each of those values and their descriptions indicated in the tooltip or hover info box there. All right. Moving on here, we see that we have an evaluate equals t, or true argument here. And this evaluate t argument essentially allows for smoother functioning of the Plotly package so that it avoids difficulty in loading each of the conditions that we specified previously. And then we go ahead and close that argument. The next phase of the code here refers to how we've already plotted each of our tasks here based on our color and all that kind of thing. Now with this next phase of code, we are customizing the plot and how we want our Gantt chart rather to be displayed. So here we have our x-axis with a list equals list command, which allows us to specify or customize our layout of our x variable. In this case, we've told R that we do not want to display the grid lines, so we have a blank background rather than a background separated by grid lines. Then we have a tick font command, which specifies the font that we want, the type of font that we have displayed for both our x and y axes. And then we have another list command where we're able to specify for both the x and y axes, where we specify the color that we want the axes to be displayed in, which is in this case white. And then we have a tick mode, so we're saying we're specifying in our how we want to display each variable or each axis in this in the rest of the code here. We have, let me move this out of the way a little bit. There we go. Then a tick values equals, we're telling R that we want to start with the first task because you can't really have a Gantt chart if you have 0 tasks. You haven't really started anything. And then we have, so basically this tick values command is allowing us to set our task ranges, which is again our 1 through 19 value here in our x-axis, indicating the first task that we have and the total tasks, which again is the in-row command here based upon the dataset Gantt, specifying the number of tasks that we have. Then we are specifying the using this tick text equals unique Gantt select number variable here. This bit of code here is basically indicating that we want the text value to display based upon the variable number. So we've told R that we want the value to be displayed starting at 1 and to the end or total of that particular value based upon the dataset Gantt. And then we've indicated that we want that text to be displayed based upon the variable number, which is our number of tasks in this Gantt chart. And then we set our domain there. In terms of annotations, this is again just helping us orient and display our Gantt chart. So we're able to customize and add, or customize our window here and add our X and Y coordinates based upon these iterations, which is basically customizing the plot window or the viewer window here based upon the reference paper. So if you think of like in a Word document how we have the typical margins of a piece of paper, we're indicating those references here with our margins for X and margins for Y. And then next we have the information that we want to be displayed in our legend here. And that information includes, like I said again, tasks to be completed, tasks underway, and tasks yet to be started. And we do that using a text equals paste 0 command. Paste 0 command allows us to paste individual labels separately rather than in a string. So each line is displayed separately versus a long line of code here, long line of words for our legend. We've indicated that we want task completed first, task underway second, and task yet to start third. And to do that, we've summed we've used sum command here where we've selected the data set and then selected the variable complete. And so we just I've told R to count the number of completes that we have. In this case, this is from a past project. So all the tasks in this particular Gantt chart have been completed. And then I wanted to have this value displayed in a fraction form. So I had it sum all of the completed tasks, and then I wanted that information divided by the total number of tasks that I have in my Gantt data set. And there we see I have 18 out of 19 tasks completed. And then similarly, I summed the tasks that are underway and then divided that value by the total number of tasks. And we see that was only 1 for this example. And then for the tasks yet to start, I indicated that with a link command, based upon the number of tasks that are yet to start. This is a unique variable that I've indicated, a specific variable, which is based upon the dataset Gantt, and I've selected the variable yet to start because that's a variable I'm interested in displaying, and in this case, that variable is only 1 for this example. And here we have our font command where we've customized using the list command the color that we want to display, or that we want to display in the size that we want it displayed for our legend. So in other words, I'm telling R that I want this legend to be displayed in the color orange, and I want it to be displayed in a size 12 font at the coordinates indicated here, and I wanted that aligned left. And then in our next bit of code here, we have another list command where we're referencing paper again, a piece of paper again, those typical margins that we would see in a Word document with a X reference paper and Y reference paper command here, or argument here. And this allows us to specify where we want our title to be displayed. So X is 0.1, which displays our title to the left. If it was 0.5, it would display the title in the middle, and 1, it would display the title to the right there. But we've indicated that we wanted everything to be at anchored left, or aligned left. And then we did a paste command to paste the title of our Gantt chart, which is in this case, this Gantt chart refers to, again, the R&R minority stream project that we're working on, or that I have been working on for the past couple months now. And then, of course, we have our font and our list command where we're able to customize the color that we want each of those labels for our title to be displayed in. And we've indicated that we want it to be displayed in a size 20 font, and we want it to be displayed in Times New Roman. And again, just aligning it there. And lastly, for the last bit of code, the plot BG color equals quote number sign 33333 there, close quotes, comma. This value here indicates that we want to have the background. This BG refers to the background. This background color we want to indicate with the color black, and this is what this code here means, this hex code here. And then in line 78, we have another paper underscore BG color, so background color, again, we want to indicate as black using the same hex code, but this time we want to indicate the paper color, or this axis color. Basically, the inside of the plot we've indicated we want to be black using the plot background color argument here, and then we've indicated that we want the axes. In other words, I'm telling R that I want the whole plot background to be black, and I've done that using a plot or a paper underscore BG color equals black command. And then we've indicated to R that we've closed the program, or to close the Plotly package, by indicating all of these variables here, all these parameters and lines of code that we've indicated to place and arrange for our Gantt chart with a closing P variable here, where we pushed in all the rest of this. So in other words, we pushed all this information, all these lines of code into the Plotly package, and it's plotted our Gantt chart for us based upon the code that we've indicated. All right, thanks for tuning in. Cheers.